are flying with instruments here. We're talking aviation, but we're also talking Purdue football. Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. Gerad Parker, Brian Newbert, and myself. That's Alan Karpick, I think is who it is. And we want to thank our sponsors, Triple X and Hilton Garden Inn. John Basham, a happy man last night. I could see him from across the way during the Purdue basketball game. Purdue beating Ohio State in a terrific game last night, and a huge win for Purdue. And then State Farm agent Trent Johnson, who also was a happy Boilermaker fan last night. Do you get a chance to? It's a dumb question to some extent, but you certainly pay attention to basketball, and it's all for the good when this basketball team is making a run right now.
No question. We know those guys well. They help us in recruiting when they can. We do the same for them. And obviously we're Purdue fans. Yeah. So we've kept up with the run they're on. So happy those guys are doing a heck of a job. And anytime you're putting a brand out there that's winning games, no matter who it is or what it is, it's really, really good for everybody. So what a great job they're doing. A huge win last night. We watched it as the staff got together a little bit afterwards, and it was good to see.
So Ray Davis would be a really good outside linebacker, would he? I don't know. I like him. I don't know. Brian, what do you think?
Who would be the best basketball player on your team?
From football?
Yeah. Good question.
There's a lot of really good power forwards.
There's no question.
Playing tight end, and there's a lot of even better tight ends playing power forward right now.
Monterosa was a great high school basketball player. That's a good call.
Bryson
Hopkins in this class.
Yeah. Did you say you had when your visit when you were at the podium yesterday, you'd seen Hopkins? That was of recent. So Bryson Hopkins, the tight end that from Nashville, that is a guy that will. To be good athletes, though, do you guys, some coaches, or do you think it's a trend where more coaches now like guys that are playing basketball and other sports, or is that overstated, or do you really prefer guys that are training more in between their football season and spring or whatever option they have?
I think, and it's a good question. For us, and I guess my opinion, but a lot we've discussed, we kind of like guys who play it and play a lot, because you think whatever that competitive gene is, the more and more you can keep pulling at it to see how a guy competes and continues to compete year round. That's pretty fun to see. Not to say that there isn't a line there where the guy wears himself thin and can't gain weight and all those things, but we like guys who compete, and when you compete year round, that stuff's contagious. When you start, and especially some of the kids that are involved in really great programs, there's no better thing than kids learn how to win.
It's a good segue to my next question. Elijah, before he got hurt, obviously was a multi-sport guy. When you got him a year ago at this time, how uneasy were you about it? Because you got this kid you think is a really good player, and a lot of people think is a really good player, right in the middle of SEC country. Who's got some other sport options potentially down the line in terms of his ability to play baseball. How, potentially uncomfortable were you at that point in time, because you knew you had a great player in your hands?
Well, no question. I mean, I went home, man. You tell everybody at home, everybody here was like, hey. Now I'll say this: as far as other schools, I really wasn't uncomfortable because of who Elijah is. You just knew. I mean, he's one of those kids that once he gives you his word, it's done. So that part I wasn't a bit uncomfortable, but I knew that the baseball thing could come up because he is a really good. He was a really talented pitcher, and obviously threw at a speed that a lot of those guys like to get drafted. So that was something that was in the back of our minds. But we're certainly glad. I think he wanted to also get his school, and so knowing that about him and who he is, I lived a little bit uncomfortable, but not too bad.
All right, so 2015's over. Now we're on to 2016. Now, I bristle at that notion just for you guys professionally, though I know you embrace it. All right, what will the 2016 class look like in terms of broad stroke numbers, or who you might want to focus on in terms of positions? What do you see?
Yeah, well, we've obviously headed that direction. There's no doubt about it. Everybody in the country has. Our numbers will be a little bit different. You're talking about we won't lose as much. We will not be able to take 25. What that number turns into, we'll see, but it won't be 25. It will not be a full 25 like this year. But like any year, I think you end up always having a little bit more than what you think. So we'll see where that ends up, but it's not going to be 10 or 12, but it's certainly not going to be 25. So with that, you're going to start filling needs and take everywhere, which there's not really a specific, hey, we're going to take this, and this just yet. We're going to take the best football players we can in those spots, and we've got room at each position with what we'll lose next year to keep filling them,
What's your recruiting footprint right now? I know you guys talk about your state of Purdue a lot, but there was a lot of activity in California. I know you've always recruited the junior colleges, but you guys have made some noise in Maryland. Just what are you trying to do right now from a regional standpoint?
Yeah, we're still going to keep our coaches in areas that they stayed in, because I think that's important. We think that's important, because now guys have started to build relationships with a Purdue shirt on for 2 years, and that's how, I mean, it's all about relationships with coaches and all those people there, where you start building a name for yourself as a recruiter and for Purdue. So we'll continue to keep our guys in the right spots. Obviously, whatever those needs are and where we got to find players is where we'll go. But us staying around our surrounding states and working up into Maryland, which has been good to us. Texas has been great to us. We're still going to go to Florida. We have, right now we haven't done as good in Florida, and the place we got to do better. But we've done good in Texas. We really feel proud of what we've done in Indiana and the state of Purdue, and got to continue to hit Chicago hard. And we have to get up to Chicago and do well up there. So our surrounding states are key for us, and we want to be good in Ohio too. Michigan has done decent for us.
Nashville seems like a place you personally have put a lot of time into. It seems like there's some really good football down there. What do you feel like Purdue can get out of Nashville, and why is Nashville a good fit for you guys?
Yeah, I'm pro Nashville.
Yeah.
I am. And one, it's a great city, and I love the city. Everybody knows that about me. I love country music. I love that city. But I'll say this: that there's enough good mix of the Metro League down there and public school system and the private school systems down there, to where we get a good pull from the public schools, and then we also get a good pull from the private schools that allows us high academics and a high sell that is good. It's a good relationship for us to go down there for that reason. The football is really good, and it's getting better. The coaches down there do an unbelievable job. They do a good job. They're starting to really push football down that way. And one of the biggest reasons, and I'll try not to be too long answering, is that city is now just went kaboom, and all those ex-NFL players, i.e. Bryson Hopkins and his dad, have had children that are starting to be in high school now. So you're getting a crop of kids. There's kids there that have had great bloodlines to recruit to. So we're excited to go down there, and it's 5 hours. It's 5 hours. Hop on 65, and you're there in 5 hours. So it's a lot closer than they all think. So we've been waving the flag down there, and really had a really good, good things come from it.
You're driving quick at 5 hours, but that's good.
Yeah.
But that's good. You're doing fine.
Yeah.
No, with that said, you have we had a question about how you guys, and I don't remember the number that Coach Darrell Hazel said yesterday, but how many guys you've evaluated. Is it 3,000? I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, I think it's 3,071.
All right, when you start that process, and you're in that process probably heavily, you've been in that for a while for the 16s, do you collectively, does your recruiting staff rank, and then that brings it to the top, or how does that process work?
That's right. They'll push through a ton of kids, that number, and even more for this year. And what they do is we rank them. We have a ranking system. After it gets through that ranking, we watch everybody that is tagged. Anybody that's tagged as a recruitable kid or higher, we watch. And then we get them evaluated and push them through from position by recruiting area, then position coach, coordinators, and then the boss does the rest.
Which retains veto power, I'm sure,
that's
from
right.
that standpoint.
When a kid tweets his huddle video at you and 75 other schools at the same time and basically begs you to watch it with words misspelled and whatnot, do you open it?
Good question. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Because you just never know sometimes, right?
That's right.
That's a great
anything
question.
that's intriguing at all, regardless of who's tagged, we pull up. I pull up. You have to, because you never know when you're like, whoa, here we go. And sometimes it's not, but we certainly, you have to. You have to. But it's usually more times than not, as the joke goes, if they're calling you, you know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
what I asked,
Yep.
One of my favorite, and I think our whole staff's favorites over the years has been a guy named Jim Chaney, and Matt certainly remembers him well and favorably, and you have some of those same qualities. But he used to talk about how you can measure. You have to watch film. And you have to be able to compare apples to apples, because you can measure. Is it simply? Are there measurables on films? You count strides, how fast guys can run. Give us one trick of the trade if you choose to. What do you watch?
Film?
Yeah. What do you really watch for? They always talk about hip movement and that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, when you're talking about a kid, if he can run, you're looking at stride length, the whole 2 steps. You know, how far can a guy go when he's full run? Is it further than 5 yards in 2 steps?
Okay.
Usually, you see a kid get that far, he's covering ground in a hurry. And I don't know. Otherwise, I think that it is what it is, as Coach Hazel preaches, is how much what you see on film before you pull up how many offers he has.
Yeah.
And I think that's been good for us. We kind of, as we tag it, is try to avoid groupthink as much as we can.
Yeah,
Instead
that's
of getting
hard.
in there, and you know how it is with anything, watching a movie or whatever it is, you start watching a kid and some guy throws off the handle and says, this kid's awful,
Yeah.
Well, so then everybody else is persuaded to think, well, I don't want to step up and say I like him. So
Yeah.
we kind of let it run, and that's not really a trick, but it's about what we
Yeah.
do. Let it run, build your opinion, let the tape finish or get a lot through, and then start. And everything that's said in that room, we put down. So I think for us, we write everything on the sheet of the evaluation, and I think that helps us, because if we come back in 3 months and want to revisit the kid, we can say, okay, well, 3 months ago you said this.
Yeah.
The junior college wide receivers, Dominique Young and Anthony Mahangu, seem like guys you feel like you struck gold on, so to speak, in California. So
Yes, I mean,
how appropriate.
Yeah, there you go.
It happens there.
We'll play on words. Really good. I mean, 2 long guys. That's 2 of those guys you kind of start looking over your shoulder like, is this? We're going to get these guys. I think they're a little bit underrated guys. They're both good football players. They're both good kids. Got good energy. And you all got to know a little bit more. I got to know a little bit more about Anthony yesterday in his interview. He did a great job. And but they've got length and they can run. Are they raw? Is there some things we got to improve? Of course, but that's our jobs, and we will, and on the offensive side of the ball, and it's going to be fun to see those guys improve and get here,
All right, we're gonna wrap this down in about 2 minutes left. Even though it's the internet, we could go on all day. The coach has got things to do, and I know Brian does. So, you look at that, and you have the situation too where is that also impact with the fact that you don't worry about who else has offered him necessarily? Is that part of that group think when you say, well, I know Ohio State and Notre Dame are after him, or I know Central Michigan and Toledo are after him? How much does that play into it, or does that play into it at all?
It plays into it. We'd certainly be lying if it didn't. It does play into it, but we don't. It certainly doesn't play into it as much with us as it does some other places I've been or what some other guys do. We try to make sure and evaluate, see what our eyes see. And then if we have strong feelings, push, And the other thing is, I think that real quick would be, there's nothing better than seeing a kid live. So anytime we're out on the road and we can video a guy and see things with our own eyes that you can't see sometimes on film, it's irreplaceable. It'll tell you the truth and say, oh no, we can't, or it'll tell you, wow, this kid, we need to get on this.
Does groupthink kind of take hold in recruiting too, in the sense that Eddie Wilson, he's sitting there in West Bloomfield, Michigan, the whole time. He's committed to Bowling Green for the whole year, and all of a sudden, like 10 BCS teams come in on at the same time. How does that work? Is that you guys finding them first, and then everybody else realizing, hey, we should take a look too? Or?
Well, we'd like to pat ourselves on the back and our recruiting staff. I mean, a little bit sometimes. Do we feel like that happens to us a lot? Of course, our guys do, and I'm sure everybody does. But I would like to challenge what those guys are doing in recruiting, and what we do in that office. Those guys do, and all of our coaches. We're in front of people a lot, and then you tag a couple guys and you add them on Twitter, and somebody just starts to look who you're adding, because it's all public and we have to see it. So other schools will then look at ours and try to catch up, and that's part of the game. We get it's the game, but certainly we laugh about it. So
We used to say that there were secrets in recruiting. There aren't very few secrets in recruiting anymore, and that makes it. Does it make it harder? Really for you? I mean, the fact that you can't, it's hard as heck to hide guys now.
Yeah. So it is harder.
It goes both ways though, too, doesn't it? You can find guys.
Yeah,
too.
you're right. I mean, guys that we would have, Michael Mendez.
Yeah.
Without some of the things we have in social media and all those things, and being able to get to a film so easily, we would have never probably found him. So you find him, but you're holding on to try to get him and keep him. A lot of these kids, and that's part of the deal.
Yeah, huddle and all that kind of stuff too. All the technology just boggles your mind in terms of that. All right, well, we'll do this again. Not next week probably, but hopefully sometime too. And we really would like to talk football, even just nuts and bolts football with the coach. But we'll hopefully get that opportunity as well. Spring football not too far away as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and Gerad, good luck. Maybe a little bit of decompression time, but you'll be back at it I know 6 a.m. starts soon and all that
Absolutely.
kind of good stuff, and then you have to put a football team on the field. And Brian, thanks as well. I want to thank our sponsors, Hilton Garden Inn, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, and of course Triple X and Basham Reynolds for your support for this Thursday. We'll have this on the site tomorrow, because I think our usual Friday afternoon folks will want to watch this interview as well. And we'll be back a week from Friday. Coach Lonnie Green, we're going to talk about speed and Purdue track. He's got a couple of Purdue football players on there as well. We'll look forward to having him on next Friday on Gold and Black Live. Have a great week, everybody. Stay warm wherever you are, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week on Gold and Black Live.